Now let me tell you a little bit about the culture so we can find out what the ultimate temptation is. Most Roman citizens were drawn into the gaming world of spectacles in the arenas. There was a nonstop calendar of events. It began in the capital city of Rome, and soon it went to the furthest provinces of ever increasingly exciting spectacles. How did the Roman emperors keep the people? They knew the games, the gladiatorial games. You know, the one thing that you can find everywhere in the Roman Empire, these gigantic places they built for crowds. It's just amazing what went on in those places. Live gladiatorial fights to the death. There's nothing like watching two people, and whoever makes the wrong move is going to get killed in front of your sight. Now, the first time, people would go like this. You know, it was too horrible to watch, and they would just go, ugh, I can't watch that. And then the next time, you know, they watch between their fingers. Then the next time, they can't wait. And there became this, I don't know, morbid attraction to death. And then when that wore out, they started doing men against ravenous beasts. So one guy out there with one sword, and they'd fill the arena with, you know, whatever hungry predators, and he would have to fight them off or be eaten. And then people, that got old, so they would fill the whole thing with beast against beasts, fighting to the death. In fact, the tomb of Augustus, you know, Augustus Caesar, the one that was the Caesar during the birth of Christ, he had this massive tomb, and by the Middle Ages, they had emptied all the stuff out of the tomb, and it was so big, they would have bears fighting bears inside of there. And they'd bring bears in, starve them, let them loose in the arena, and have the bears claw each other to death, and one bear eat the other bear, and that was their entertainment. They would have duels, bloody deaths, shocking sights, but what it all was intense visual stimulation. Now think about what it was like to live in Rome. The roar of the crowds became intoxicating. If you were over here working in your leather shop, and all of a sudden you heard 200,000 people at the same time go, ah! That's how big the Circus Maximus was, 200 to 250,000 people. Can you imagine when everyone's cheering at the same time? You'd be over here working in your leather shop, and no one wanted to miss why everybody was screaming at the games. So by the way, they lasted all day long. Some of them lasted for weeks, nonstop games. Do you know why there are hardly any wild animals left? Israel used to have all kinds of lions, and when you read David fighting off the lions and everything, where'd they all go? Northern Africa was filled with all kinds of majestic African beasts. Where'd they all go? The Romans shipped them all to these events and basically decimated the population. But the overpowering gladiatorial gaming culture of the first century troubled, tempted, and weakened the early church. It was a constant problem. That's why Paul said, set your affections on things above, not on things of the earth. You're not supposed to be going to those banquets with the dancing girls. You're supposed to be focusing on Christ. But yet, they were torn. Well, that culture has morphed into a more alluring 21st century, irresistible, almost inescapable culture, which brings us to the message to Laodicea. Beware of the ultimate temptation. The ultimate temptation is anything that can distract us from God. You know, most people, they think, oh, it's just those people, they're into all that bad stuff on the internet. Well, how do you define the bad stuff on the internet? Did you know the Lord said that coveting is idolatry? Idolatry is the most offensive thing that God says, if you have any other God before me, that is horrible. Yet I know people that they spend all their time, not you, because it's not for your age, but the 30-year-olds used to have their Pinterest boards where they were constantly pinning the bathroom they always dreamed of having. They were pinning up the house they were always dreaming of having. This term became their dream home. And what that meant was they didn't like where they were living now. They didn't like it. You could tell they didn't like it. They talked about it. They tell people, we got to earn more money. We got to get out of this little box, and this this consuming desire to earn more money and have a better house are the same people that would sit in my office and they're having trouble with their children or in their marriage or in their personal life or whatever. And I would say, well, first of all, let's talk about your health. You know, if you're healthy, you have an appetite. Tell me about your appetite for the scriptures. How you doing reading the Bible? Oh, I don't have time to read the Bible. I have 3 jobs. Why do you have 3 jobs? Well, we're buying a new house, and we have a new car, we have a new boat, we have a new whatever. Anything that can distract us from God, we are to set him as the startup page of our day. And we're supposed to tune our minds to listen to him. Is Christ the startup page of your day? This morning at 4:30, I was making choices, and I could almost see a little, it was totally dark, I could almost see a little ring there, a circle of chalk. And I thought, I want to start my day, start up with the Lord, consecrate myself. Is the Lord the startup page? Do you tune your minds to listen to him all day? Anything that can pull your mind regularly away from God is a terrible temptation. Today we live in a seemingly the strongest, most universal temptation since the days of Noah. I mean, one of the reasons is because whatever you like, you can have with you. If you are addicted to music, you got your music there. If you're addicted to gaming, you got your games there. If you're addicted to music and games, you can watch, music videos, and you can play games. I mean, when I travel on airplanes, Bonnie and I spend hundreds of hours on airplanes, thousands of miles flying. When you walk to the restroom at the back, when you walk this way toward the back, everyone's head is down. So, everybody's like this, facing the front with their head down. When you walk the other way, you see why their head is down. They all have either their iPad or their phone or their laptop. I mean, the ones that don't are either old or blind or sick. You know what I mean? And they're sitting there. And they're just, either they're playing some moving game or some, I don't even know any of them anymore, Candy Crush, or they're playing, I don't even know what games they play anymore, the Tweety Birds ones, but they're just all doing it. It's amazing. We have almost universal temptation to distract us from God. Has God gotten blurry over the past weeks and months of your life? If so, this letter is saying that you may be infected. Look back at what it says in verse 15. I know your works. You're neither cold nor hot. What on earth is that? It's harder when you read the second line. I wish you were cold or hot. Would God ever wish what most people think that means? Do you know what most people say? Hot is good, cold is bad, right? That you'll hear that 90% of the time. So God wishes you were either good or bad? God wishes you were bad? Is that really a good interpretation? Do you think that's wait a minute, what's the first law of textual interpretation? What did the people understand, he said? See, yesterday you were asking me about what 10 days means. Do you know what the first, to Smyrna, do you know what the first law of interpretation is? What did it mean to the Smyrnians? Now what does it mean to me today in 2022? What did it mean to the Laodiceans, hot or cold? Well, it's easy. Here's Laodicea. Over there is Hierapolis, that's a city. Over there is Colossae. That's a city. You saw it on the map. I showed you the epicenter, and you could see Laodicea, and down below it was Colossae. Hierapolis is still a national park in Turkey. It looks like Yellowstone. It has all these beautiful waterfalls, hot springs that go like this, and it's bubbling hot water coming out of the ground. 24/7, 365. Hot water, Hierapolis. Colossae is totally different. Colossae is kind of like Aquafina or, whatever water company you know about, Perrier. It was the crystal cold rock spring water that just bubbled up out of the ground. And it was cold water. So, the Laodiceans, by the way, didn't have a water source. So the Romans built aqueducts. And it was, over 10 miles, and the hot water came out of Hierapolis this way, and the cold water came out of Colossae this way, and they both merged into Laodicea here. And by the way, 10 miles of trickling along a stone aqueduct made the hot water not quite hot. You know how you turn the faucet and wait, you hold your hand under there, wait for it to get hot? In Laodicea, you'd never get hot water. You would that it was hot, but it wasn't. And the Perrier water coming from over there, by the time it went bubbling along for 10 miles or more, was never cold. You'd run the water, it never got cold. It just felt like it had been in the pipes too long. That's exactly, boy, when Jesus said that, they went, he knows what it's like living here. Hot water cleanses this thing. You wash your dirty clothes with hot water. Cold water refreshes. Hot water helps you. You take a hot bath when you're aching with sore muscles. Cold water, it's so important that you're either hot or cold. You know what Jesus said? I would that you would be what I designed you to be, but you're not. God gets blurry. I always pause right now and I say, have you ever made a sacred vow to refocus upon God? That you will read God's word before your social media or your favorite game or anything else, online activities every morning. Now, what we used to say when I was in youth ministry, we'd say, no Bible, no breakfast, no Bible, no bunk. The kids liked that because they never wanted to go to bed, so they always held off their reading. But what we meant was you couldn't go to breakfast until you had a little time with the Lord, and you couldn't jump into bed until you had a little time with the Lord to end your day. Let me ask you, have you ever made that choice to seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness every day?